Welcome to Marketing Brew Weekly, where we chat about everything surprising and delighting the marketing world this week. I'm Jenny Mywin, reporter here at Marketing Brew.
I'm Kelsey Sutton, editor.
And I'm Katie Hicks, senior reporter.
Today, we are breaking down the branding of Zohran Mamdani's mayoral campaign, diving into dupe culture, and checking in on branded Halloween. Ready? Let's do it!
So Hatch, the alarm clock company, recently found itself on a side of TikTok that, frankly, I did not know existed, Demon Talk.
Oh my god.
This was in response to their Halloween campaign that they put out, and it had some people so spooked that they said that they thought that they had possessed alarm clocks, and they threatened to throw them out.
Oh my god, I have a Hatch alarm clock. Is mine possessed? Should I go check? What is so bad about this ad?
I feel like we got to talk about this spooky ad because I watched the ad. I think we all did before heading into the recording studio, and it is a legitimately spooky, scary ad.
It's a good campaign. It's very reminiscent of a horror movie.
Yeah, as you can see, I think it's Kiernan Shipka who is the main character in the ad, and it's all about putting down your phone, not doom scrolling before bed and having it ruin your sleep, but it's genuinely kind of scary looking, which is I guess it's Halloween time, it's kind of typical, but I don't know, kind of shocking that it's actually scary.
It's sort of like she can't stop looking at her phone, and then she starts seeing demonic visions of the things that she's been seeing on her, social media pages, etc. At one point, she pulls a phone charger out of her throat. It's so visceral, and it's a great sort of fake trailer. And then, of course, at the very end, it's interrupted by a very peaceful, I would say, Hatch alarm clock that sort of indicates, you can get some sleep. Use this product. It will allow you to sleep and log off and get the beauty rest that you need so that you don't sort of experience these hallucinations. I think it's a great, fun sort of thing. And I think it makes me think about how brands have to decide how scary they can be around Halloween. I feel like in this case, Hatch said, yeah, let's go for it. Let's be spooky.
They had a few other videos too. There was one where it was just a woman who was dressed up, being like, I'm a vampire going to bed finally. I'm putting my phone down. I'm not getting blue light exposure. And that one also got some backlash. But I think the funny thing here is Hatch knew that this was all kind of the backlash was a little silly. They released a statement apologizing anyways, saying basically, if you feel that there may be a, quote, tiny demon inside of your alarm clock, they will repossess it for you and take it back and give it to somebody who might want it.
And I think the possess was all capitalized.
Repossess. Yeah, they literally say, addressing hashtag demon talk, we're very sorry. We will repossess it for you if you so choose.
Maybe in this case, kind of showing up on the wrong side of TikTok, or I would say I did not know that hashtag demon talk existed. Now we do, but maybe showing up there actually kind of validates this choice for them. You know what I mean?
They clearly spooked people. They did their job. If that was the intention, if they wanted to scare people, I think they did it.
I think it's a good example of a brand seeing actual backlash. I feel like people who were on hashtag demon talk were serious about this possessive vibe of the ad, but kind of the brand recognizing that yes, they were serious about this backlash, but ultimately it's an unserious issue, and they addressed it, but it was tongue-in-cheek. They made a little joke out of it, and they're in on the joke, even if the joke was not meant to be a joke in the first place, which I think is a good, not clap back, but just response in general.
I do have to wonder how many people actually sent their clock back.
I know. I'm keeping mine, so no possession on my Hatch alarm clock. Well, before we get into the next topic, let's talk about the sponsor of today's episode, Digicom.
Digicom is a digital marketing agency, and they work with e-commerce brands like Mind Body Green, Ever Eden, David's Toothpaste. What they do is they use scientific creative testing and multi-channel executions to get 10x level breakthroughs on ad platforms like Meta and Google, or TikTok, Outbrain, Taboola, you name it.
So Digicom really plugs in as a brand's head of growth. They'll handle things like budgeting and planning. They can do creative production for paid ads using your assets, and they can even do media buying. But first, they conduct an audit to map the metrics that matter for a brand, whether that's hook rate, watch time, click-through rate, conversion, or revenue.
For Marketing Brew listeners, that's you guys, Digicom is offering a free no BS paid media audit where they'll spend 10 plus hours diving into Meta and Google, do creative testing, and look for ways to optimize your conversion rate. And then they'll give you a 90-day action plan.
To get your brand's free paid media audit, go to digicom.io/brew. Again, that's digicom.io/brew.
Well, it might be Halloween season, but it is also election season here in New York City. And I think we should talk about the branding behind Zohran Mamdani's mayoral campaign, which has been getting a lot of attention, obviously from the electorate, but also from brand marketers, and kind of break down maybe what a marketer can learn from how he's put himself out there on this campaign so far. For anyone who might not be following New York City local politics, Zohran is the current Democratic nominee. He has particularly built a really strong social media presence, and he is showing a significant lead in the days leading up to the election here. And he has built a campaign that a lot of people are paying attention to. So I'm curious for you guys, what do you think has stood out, and what can marketers really learn from what he's done so far?
I think we should talk about the social videos first, because I think that's something that really kind of has stood out, and it's something we've talked about a lot as we talk about brands' different social strategies. But something that I think has really stood out for me with the Mamdani campaign is the social videos. The social presence is very prolific, and I think that it's very. It feels very internet fluent. And I think that that's something a lot of brands are kind of aiming for. Something we talked about last week is we talked about sort of man on the street interviews, or person on the street interviews, and that sort of style of social content, which, as we talked about, is challenging, very hard to do when you are campaigning for mayor. And Zohran Mamdani has been out and about often with events, canvassing, all of this sort of thing. That, I think, is ripe for filming and producing a ton of literally man on the street content. And I think that that's such an interesting way to engage with the New York populace by sort of saying, here I am, like, I'm here to talk to you. So in a lot of these videos, you're seeing, all of these, again, seemingly like very, very kind of genuine off the cuff moments with somebody riding by on a bike, or somebody who's kind of coming up while the cameras are rolling. And you just have to think about all the work that's going behind all the filming that has to be done to sort of capture all of that. And then again, cut it down and distill it and disseminate it on social media. And that seems to really resonate with a lot of people.
I think that has been a key kind of bucket of his social media presence, is that literally being out on the street and talking to people in the community. One of the videos that I saw was he went to Chinatown and he talked to Chinatown business owners about like the favorite places that he had in the neighborhood that this business owner had, and then talked about the issues that they were facing in the specific neighborhood. And it all feels very natural, very off the cuff, like very much. Obviously, they planned to meet up here, but it wasn't like a scripted conversation, which I feel like brands are seeking so much in how they show up on social. And it's such an important part of a political campaign, because you want the people that you're communicating to understand your message and to believe in your message. And when you're actually out there doing it and a camera captures it and it feels natural on social media, that is one way to do it that is really seemingly connecting with the people who are viewing it.
I think it's worth pointing out, too, that his campaign really kicked off with a man on the street video. He went out and asked people who had a split ticket or who switched from voting blue to red why they did so in this past election in 2024, and used that to add to his platform and to really talk to people about the issues that caused them to flip. So by talking to people, I feel like it's a huge thing that brands can take away in terms of like social listening and like who is your audience and what do they actually want to hear, and then using that insight to craft your message.
Yeah. Something else I want to talk about is some of the videos that we've seen, some of the commercials that we've seen on television. Television, as we know, is like a huge place for a lot of political ad spending. And it's something a lot of older voters, who are generally a very reliable voting bloc, spend more time on linear television. And so leading up to the election, there has been two, I think I would call them sort of standout just because they're kind of unique TV ad spots that I wanted to talk about. One of them is a sort of spoof on Survivor, where there are sort of people who have participated in and competed on Survivor as part of sort of a fake, bonfire conversation, voting Andrew Cuomo off of the island. Of course, Andrew Cuomo running as an independent and trying to sort of go against Zohran Mamdani here in New York. And then that ran during an airing of Survivor, which I think is just such an interesting way to show up on TV, very unlike a lot of political ads I've seen. And then similarly in The Golden Bachelor, a reality show, which is on ABC, sort of a spoof of a Bachelor type experience with the roses and Zohran Mandani walking up to the camera, picking up a rose and sort of appealing directly to the audience, very much like a candidate on one of those reality dating shows might do. And I thought I wanted to talk about those because I think that it's such an interesting way to show up on TV. I think when you think of kind of the traditional political TV ad, you think of something very, very different, sort of like a third party narrator kind of going through a bunch of, campaign conversation or points, talking points, et cetera, and almost like still images, like get stock images almost. And so that, I think it really stood out to me because of how specific it is. And again, those are targeted toward maybe older viewers who are more likely to be watching on TV, but also sort of perfectly designed to do really well on social as well. And I think a lot of brand marketers have that balance to walk too, because there is sort of targeting something for one screen, but they know they have to cut that down and maybe use it, recycle it on a different screen. So it's going to be watched in all these different formats. So how do you kind of win in both? And I think in this case, like being very specific feels very, again, in the know and sort of culturally, or internet literate almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the fact that he made ads specifically for a Survivor broadcast and then a Bachelor broadcast, I think he also made one that specifically aired during like Fox News, is kind of also different from the typical political ad. Like typically it follows the same script, it has that same voiceover, it has the same vibe and feel, and that plays across all local television. Whereas this is like, I'm appealing to this specific audience, even though it's on linear TV, I'm like talking to the people who are watching these specific shows. And it's fascinating to me that it is working for those specific audiences, but then it does also have the double use of then working really well on social media as well. I think it communicates how well he knows his audience and where to talk to people. And he is doing it differently, but making sure that it can be used in multiple places, which is every marketer's dream, to be able to reuse assets for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're reaching a younger audience on social, you're reaching an older audience with TV spend. I think his strategist, Zohran's strategist, Morris Katz, had said that the TV ads were in part to reach an audience it's a little harder to reach for a traditionally social campaign. But another aspect of the social strategy, which we kind of touched on earlier, that I think is important here is to generate the UGC and to generate the social content. Like, he's out on the street, but he's also organizing a lot of events. His campaign has put on a scavenger hunt and a cross-borough soccer game and has done these things. He's shown up at they did a Forest Hills, which is a stadium in New York City. They did a rally this past weekend. He's also shown up at some concerts there. Lucy Dacus, he was at a Pink Panthers concert. He's showing up in all these places where you can generate social content, but also it creates this feeling of like community and like getting people out of the house who then might be more willing to go canvas or who might be willing to go do things on behalf of the campaign. And I think brands can learn from this because we've talked extensively about the death of the third place and how people don't really have free places to hang out anymore and they want to go to events and do things. And I think brands are kind of catching on to this and offering like out-of-home experiences and different pop-up events and things like that. And this campaign is showing that if you give people a reason to leave the house, they probably will.
Yeah, and I think that kind of building community is something we hear a lot of brand marketers talk about. They want to have people who feel this affinity to their brand or their product because they get these experiences that feel very genuine and feel, it feels better than just looking at something on a screen. And so I think we've seen that a lot in the brand marketing space. And I think that seeing that almost, I don't want to say replicated, but we're kind of seeing a mirrored strategy in the political space that getting people out of their homes not only kind of mobilizes people. It maybe there's a long tail to that. And then there's also, again, the added benefit is if people are there with their phones and they're taking photos and they're filming video, then there is sort of the halo effect, right? Of people saying, okay, I'm going to now post this and that's going to reach people that I know. And the cycle continues.
It's just more content at the end of the day that like the campaign is not actually producing, but there's people there to capture it and get that event out on the social media airwaves or wherever they're going to put it. The other thing that stood out to me from the very beginning is actually the brand design of Zohran's logo and everything that he like visually puts out. So his logo is specifically Zohran for New York City. It's bright yellow letters. It's against this bright blue background. A lot of the like imagery has pulled from like classic New York like icons. There's like a New York magazine image. There's like references to buildings that are all like very like 80s inspired, and it feels really organic, and that stands in stark difference to, again, a more typical political logo or campaign or sign that you see.
Red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue. Like even like the font, like Zohran's is like a little bit like wavy. Like there's
I think it was inspired by like
movement in it.
Bollywood fonts. It's very unique to his like upbringing.
Yeah, so there's like connection to it, whereas like a typical one is like a sans serif font that's like blocky and just like is like all about business. And I feel like even just the visual identity communicates that he is one of you, or he gets it and he's authentic and he is casual, and going by Zohran is like, I'm someone that you know, someone that like is your friend or someone that you talk to all the time. So I feel like it boils down to even just like how he presented himself from the very beginning, which is very smart thinking from his team.
And it's just very identifiable. Like you see those colors, you see that font, you know it's the Zohran campaign. And I think that's something that brand marketers can really learn from, is like, what can you do to differentiate yourself from other brands, and what can you do to kind of unify your brand campaigns across all these different mediums, whether it's TV or social or out of home. Like, do you have a very strong brand visual identity?
I mean, it's so strong in its visual identity that someone tried to launch an anti-campaign called Hot Girls for Cuomo. And actually, when I watched this video, the image that appears on screen says Hot Girls for Cuomo in Zohran's font, in his colors. So it's
Passively looked at it, you'd be like, oh, it's a Zohran thing.
It's a Zohran thing. And it's cut through so much that people have associated that it is something that people like and something that communicates something. So even though it's for his literal opposition, it has hit home, clearly.
I really wonder if we're going to see, and to what extent we're going to see, sort of replications of the branding or the social strategy or even the TV strategy, as we get into other elections, around the country. But it's going to be very interesting to see. Well, we talked about authenticity. Now let's talk about sort of the inverse of that, which is dupe culture. Brands are really battling it out over the dupes. And some of the brands that we've sort of seen, this is a court battle, to be clear. So Trader Joe's, Costco, and Aldi are all facing legal challenges from brand names because at a lot of those retailers, if you go in, you might find some dupes of very recognizable products. Something that I think is so interesting here. So I think one example, Trader Joe's is facing a lawsuit from Smucker.
Singular Smucker really throws me off.
For the Trader Joe's crustless peanut butter and strawberry jam sandwiches. Smucker claims that this is an obvious copycat, quote, obvious copycat of their own Uncrustables. And we have so many examples of these. So, Aldi is facing a challenge from Mondelez. And again, it really hinges on taking some brand name sort of branding and then imitating it in a way that these brand names are saying you're infringing on, our copyright.
Yeah.
I think something that's so interesting here, and this is a recent development, and I want to know your guys' thoughts on this, but Lululemon actually received a trademark for the phrase Lululemon dupes. And I think that's so funny because
Not want people making that claim.
think about how many videos you've seen on TikTok of people saying this is a perfect Lululemon dupe. I can get these on Amazon for $12 or what have you. And again, Lululemon saying, we need to own that because that is kind of potentially eating into our sales. If somebody is buying a dupe of Lululemon, that means that they want to own Lululemon, and we want them to buy Lululemon.
Just buy it. Yeah.
So what do you guys think of this this sort of phenomenon that we're starting to see?
I think the fact that Lululemon just got the trademark on the phrase Lululemon dupe is so interesting, and it really shows like a shift in how these brands are thinking about dupe culture, because previously I feel like there was a little bit more like embracing of it from brand names. Lululemon in particular had like an event that was like, bring in your dupe leggings and like you can trade them in and like you'll get a discount or something like that. So like they know that duping is going on, and like kind of like acknowledging it makes the brand a little bit more approachable. But the fact that these lawsuits are happening, the fact that they want the trademark on the phrase, it makes me wonder that whether it's affecting their bottom line and they have to do something about it. And it also just like is making marketing your dupe product so much harder if the original product is going to kind of put up these barriers and pursue like legal action around looking the same, feeling the same, branding yourself similarly, which is like really big part of marketing your dupe. Because if you're making a dupe product, you need your audience to know that it's similar to that other thing that you also might want, but it's going to be cheaper. So how far can you kind of toe that line or push it before you're getting yourself in trouble?
I saw some people online saying like, well, can I still write like Lululemon DOOP?
Oh my God.
And they were like, no, even phonetic things count under this lawsuit. So you can't even like try to work it around. Lululemon really wants to make it clear that you cannot claim anything is like their product. But I wonder, I mean, I guess from the brand standpoint, there's a like brand image element to this too, because if you can slap like Lululemon dupe on something that's very different from your product or like maybe substantially lesser quality, that could end up looking bad for the brand, I guess, if someone's out there saying like, this is just like Lululemon, and then someone tries it and is like, it's not good. I mean, you could argue they should just go try a Lululemon legging then, but yeah, I think there's like a brand safety concern for Lululemon for sure.
I will say that when something is labeled a dupe, it's not always the dupe brand calling itself a dupe, right? It's often influencers, regular consumers, anyone on social media being like, oh my God, I found this pair of leggings on Amazon and it's like the perfect Lululemon dupe. So yeah, like it's just a colloquial phrase also, but it does actually bring some risk to the brand, like you said, that if it's not actually a good dupe and like someone trusts that influencer's review, buys that pair of leggings, and it's actually a poor quality pair of leggings, then now it's like, oh, like do I actually think like the real Lululemon is like not all that great in the first place? I actually talked to a couple brands who are like in the dupe game earlier this year, kind of when tariffs were first starting to roll out, and they talked a lot about how consumers are really leaning into dupes at this time because of economic uncertainty. And that's always going to be a pressure or a motivating factor for consumers to go towards the dupe side of things. But there's such a balance to strike of like, marketing your product as like, oh, we have the same but better, or like this an imperceptible difference from the name brand thing, but it's also cheaper. But you don't want the product to think, or the customer to think of the product as like cheaper in quality, but cheaper in price is a good thing. So it is a delicate line that these brands do have to walk if they are going to be in the dupe game as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame the consumers for looking for cheaper alternatives at this time. I mean, we've got tariffs, we've got all these like rising costs, we've got inflation still going on. Like people are looking for affordability, and if brands are going to keep raising their prices, then people are going to look for more dupes.
I also think that sometimes a brand can benefit from being heavily duped. And the reason that I say that is because I think that increases the perceived value of that brand. If people want a dupe, that means that they want that high quality of that original product. And so they might still say, okay, I have 3 dupe pairs, but I'm going to ask for those Lululemons, for a gift or something to that effect. It still might serve as sort of being aspirational in some ways. But I think that the dupe culture is not, I don't think we can litigate our way out of it. I think that consumers are going to continue to find ways, and creators are going to find ways to break through by saying, here, you can get this at a less pricey price point, and you can can get that same quality from that big brand that you wish you could afford and you can't right now. So I think we're only going to continue to see that. I think what it will really come down to is the courts to decide how close is too close if you're either claiming that something is a dupe or you have made packaging or, the product itself look similar, on how similar is too similar before it becomes, a problem.
Well, let's talk about a different kind of fakery, which is Halloween costumes. Every year we see people dress up in branded costumes, from the Brawny Man to Mr. Clean to Barbie and Ken. Kelsey, I know before the show we were talking about how your in-laws dressed as Flo from Progressive and Jake from State Farm last year.
Yes.
We see
Kind of
this all the
iconic.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that this is such a fun place for brands to stand out. But there's a difference between just somebody looking and picking out a brand costume in their closet and putting it together and becoming the Brawny Man, and brands actually selling their own costumes, which you've seen a little bit of.
We're seeing this more and more, and it's not really surprising considering that this year people are expected to spend, or Americans specifically, are going to spend $2 billion in adult costumes alone per the National Retail Federation. So it's a big business. So I guess one thing I'm curious to hear from you guys is, do you think that brands should be selling their own version of the costume, or should they just let people kind of organically dress up as Flo or as Barbie?
I think it's such a fine line if a brand is going to get involved, because I do think there's some magic that a brand can't quite replicate when someone organically is like, I love, like, Flo is so funny, Flo is so iconic, I'm going to like put in the effort to hand make something so that I can replicate this brand mascot and this image. That is a kind of brand love that I feel like marketers like hope for and dream for, but as soon as like a corporation steps in to like craft it, it just feels less fun. So
I feel like the authenticity can immediately disappear. Again, my in-laws looked in their closets and were like, what do we have? We've got some aprons. We've got some fun stuff we can do. We've got a
red polo.
Exactly. Which again is fun. And then of course, but that's sort of homemade. There's that genuine feeling about that versus I spent, $79 on buying, a prepackaged sort of thing. I feel the same way about sort of homemade Halloween costume versus store-bought in general. But I think that for brands, it is a fine line because you don't want to come across as inauthentic or almost like devalue the sort of fun that might come from somebody coming up with this. At the same time, we know it's a huge business, and so a brand can sort of own their identity a little bit if they dip into the space and even encourage people to dress up as their brand. And that's ultimately, at the end of the day, is free marketing.
well, especially because Spirit Halloween has a bunch of costumes every year that are like obviously brand nods, but they can't use the brand name. Like, this is like a movie character, but kind of the same vein of like Queen of Dragons rather than just like Daenerys from Game of Thrones, because they can't say that.
Wizard Boy instead of Harry Potter.
Right. And I think there's like a White Claw one, but like the name was like White Clam or something. And it's like, we literally just changed a letter there, but okay. So like, if you want your brand to have a pre-made costume and you make it yourself, then yeah, you can actually call it what it's supposed to be called and get in all of those little details that are like what makes a costume like really actually well done. And people will actually probably want to buy that more. If you are in the market to buy a pre-made costume, there are a lot of people who are not crafty or who don't want to put in the effort to like source all the things for like an elaborate costume. So yeah, I might appreciate an organic homemade costume more, but I recognize that there are a lot of people that are like, I just need something that's already there for me. And if you want to go as a specific branded thing, it's going to look way better if it comes from the brand than if it is like a knockoff whatever.
Well, we're actually seeing some brands do that. Like Cheetos partnered with Spirit Halloween this year. We saw Dr. Squatch. They're selling like a mascot costume for the Dr. Squatch monster. Nice. And Scrub Daddy and Scrub Mommy are selling a couple's costume, $50 a pop if you want to go with your significant other as a sponge for Halloween.
I do love my Scrub Daddy. I don't know if I want to wear it, but I respect it.
I kind of love that one though, because I think that, it really does look like a giant sponge. And I feel like sometimes you see branded content or branded costumes where it's a little bit more it's sort of just a picture printed on sort of a suit,
Yeah.
or some kind of
Like shapeless
rectangular
little
like, foam thing. And so I appreciate when there's a little bit more, dimension, I suppose.
All right, well, I want to play a game where we're going to go through some brand costumes being sold by the brand or by Spirit Halloween, and you guys give me your opinion on if you like them or not.
Okay, would wear.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let's start with Chili's Mott's Mate Cheese Pull 2-person costume, retailing for $75.
Okay, so this one is two people wearing sort of I guess they kind of look like a mozzarella stick, and then there's sort of fried
attached.
cheese attached.
There's a cheese connecting that cheese string.
So I have questions about how one would, go up the stairs or possibly go to the bathroom or something like this. Maybe it's detachable, but I think this one's fun. I kind of love the ingenuity here. I also think that Chili's has been leaning very hard into marketing their mozzarella sticks and the cheese pulls. So I feel like this feels very on brand for them.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually kind of right in that sweet spot of like a good branded costume, because it is like a mozzarella stick, like it's pretty distinct, but it's not like here's the Chili's logo, and it's like kind of funny. It's like a partner costume. So I think it really it nails it.
I want to see a video of someone doing the limbo in that costume.
Yep.
Right
Me
underneath
too.
the two. Next, we have Land's End's Canvas Pocket Tote, which was retailing for $100, but it's now sold out.
Wow. Okay. So this is really, it sort of looks like an apron or an overall, and it is just a canvas bag, really.
It's the Land's End, not LL Bean. They're competitors. My bad. But the tote bag really had a moment earlier on TikTok this year. So I feel like the fact that the brand knew to lean into this product in particular and make it a whole thing, I feel like it's quite literally like a recognizable product that like gets you thinking about Land's End's brand, but it's also like so culturally relevant because it had such a moment on social media that I think it's quite genius in my opinion.
At the same time, though, I'm kind of like, a bag is a bag. Like, if I showed up to a party and I was like, I'm a paper bag, you'd be like, why are you wearing that? So,
The other question is, could you just buy a bag for cheaper and cut the bottom out?
That's true. But, some people don't want to do that work of cutting it out. So,
All right, next we have Vita Coco's Strawberries and Cream or Orange Cream Labubu costumes for your little Labubu charms.
we love Labubus on this show.
I think your little boo-boo does not need a costume because they're sort of already wearing one, possibly.
Yeah, there are lots of Labubu clothes these days.
Yeah. Dress up your Labubu however you would like. I think a Halloween costume for a Labubu is a step too far for me.
I think it's cute. I think it's fun that they're trying to get in on culture in this like very specific way. But I think from a branding standpoint, it actually doesn't do much. If I'm like, first of all, are you taking your Labubu out trick-or-treating? Are people actually seeing this? I guess you could post a picture on social media. But when I see the costume, I'm not like, oh, that's obviously like in reference to this brand. I'm just like, oh, Labubu wearing a strawberry, kind of cute, I guess.
Yeah, good point.
All right, next we have Mountain Dew's Voodoo Grim Reaper costume, which it's selling with Spirit Halloween for 90 bones.
What about this is Mountain Dew, E?
I don't know.
So for those who are just listening, it's sort of a cape with sort of purple and orange and pink and blue sort of streams on
I guess
it. And then
colors?
there's sort of a face mask.
Okay.
over, but it kind of has a hood.
Maybe there's a voodoo campaign that we're just not aware of.
Perhaps.
Yeah, and maybe that is kind of the whole that kind of sums it up for us. Is we're not in the lore enough to know what this is, and so for that I think it would be a miss for me. I would not immediately associate that with Mountain Dew.
Yeah, it's somehow too generic by just being like a scary monster kind of costume, and also like not specific enough, or like I don't get the Mountain Dew reference, and I'm also not amazed by the scary craftsmanship quality of it.
Too niche.
The scariest thing about it is that it's $90.
Yeah, it's honestly terrifying.
All right, next we have Bush's Baked Bean Can costume, which it's selling for $44.
Okay, this is kind of like what Kelsey was saying earlier.
This is
shapeless.
It's sort
rectangular
of
printed
it's sort of
on
like
thing.
a rectangular, foam sort of thing that has Bush's baked beans. I think if you love Bush's baked beans, this could be fun. I feel like there's a missed opportunity to make this part of a like group costume where you're sort of
True.
ingredients for
Other
some
canned
larger
things.
thing.
Yeah.
Somebody's a chili
Yep.
pepper, and then suddenly you're, somebody's ground turkey, and then suddenly you're
Ingredients for
for chili. Yeah, somebody's shredded cheese. I don't know.
You can just run in a circle.
But I think
mix it up.
I think
Right.
alone, it's sort of like I'm not entirely sure who this is for, and I think it's for a Bush Bean super fan. Ultimately.
Right. And it gets that Bush name out there in a
Sure does.
in a fun, silly little way. So there are Bush Bean lovers out there, I'm sure.
All right, the last one I'm going to show is just because I liked it, because I saw it at the dog parade in Tompkins Square Park, but it is a little dog
Stop.
dressed as a fried chicken.
Oh my God.
With a KFC employee.
This is the best one I've ever seen, and this one feels not branded by KFC. I don't think KFC is selling these necessarily, but they
shouldn't
should. They should. Is this a golden doodle puppy?
I do believe.
Yes, which are
What?
famously like referred to as little fried chicken.
That meme that's like dog or fried chicken.
I think this one I think this gets back to what it is brands have such an opportunity to maybe encourage people to dress up or dress their dogs up in this case, to really lean into the fun. But like that one really stands out to me because it doesn't feel like it was. I mean, it wasn't
More
store-bought,
Yeah.
I don't think.
It's in reference to a meme. Like, I
Homegrown.
wonder if KFC had posted like a little mood board of like, here's what we would do for Halloween. Like, I feel like that could be inspiring to someone. But yeah, they didn't actually have to get involved. And someone out there was like, I'm going to dress my golden doodle up as KFC fried chicken, which is what more can a marketer want?
Delightful.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And if you have any branded Halloween costume pictures you want to send us, please email us at mkbw@morningbrew.com, which you can also find in the show notes. Can't wait to hang out with you again next week.